friends and lovers and all of the others. Welcome to another episode of Pod from the Bunker. My name is Kev, and we are just starting our new podcast journey. This is just our fourth episode, I believe. Today we have an East Coast all-star, I would like to call him. He has been winning awards for 20 years, and he has a couple great charities and things that he does, and I am just so stoked to have Charlie Acourt today. He goes by Charlie Plays Guitars on Twitch. So everyone who's watching on Twitch, we're recording a live podcast for YouTube. And everyone who's watching this recording on YouTube, we are actually doing this live on Twitch right now. So if you'd like to check that out, my Twitch is Kept from the Bunker. Charlie's Twitch is Charlie Plays Guitars, and it is a pleasure to be in his channel. He's an amazing musician. He's a gentleman and a scholar. And he was actually just telling me that at some point he was a music journalist. So we're going to learn a little bit about that and a whole bunch more. I actually cut him off. I'm like, wait, you're giving me content before I hit the record button, so don't do that. So we're going to get into it right now. And thank you guys for being here, and let's do it. What's up, Charlie? How you doing today?
I'm great, man. How's it going? Thanks for having me here.
I'm doing really well. Thanks for being here, man. I'm like so excited to have you. I know I'm always in your chat, like we're shooting the shit and like talking shop, and
Totally.
now we get to do it in real time, real life sort of thing, as real as we can
Just
get.
like a couple of pros.
Yeah. I'm not a pro yet. I'm hoping everything's working. Does it sound all good? I don't normally do too much addressing of the chat because we're recording a live podcast, but chat, does everything sound okay out there? I just want to make sure that levels are good for both Charlie and I, because sometimes it's crackling and I don't know. It's happened before and we had to redo a podcast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Really? That happened, hey?
On my pilot episode, it was actually a guitar player in my band, a good friend of mine, so I was lucky to have him, and he was like, yeah, I'll do it again tomorrow with you. I was like, cool, awesome.
Oh, right.
We got
right.
confirmation. It sounds good. So let's get into it, man. What is music, Charlie? Tell me, what is music?
Music for me is processing. It's a processing of and an internalization of my own feelings and my own interpretations of the world around me. It's the processing of stories that I receive from people and try to see life through their eyes sometimes. And then it's a way for me. There's a duality I find to music as a songwriter. In one sense, it's escapism. It's a way to hide when I feel vulnerable. It's a way to shutter the world out from me. And then conversely, it's a way for me to then be a mouthpiece and put things out into the universe that hopefully connect with and resonate with listeners. Regardless of the genre or the labels that get placed on the music, it's first and foremost, it's about just quite simply a connection of synapses from mine to yours.
That's amazing. I asked that question to everybody off the bat, and that's probably one of my more favorite answers.
Oh, wow.
Because not only are you talking about just being a conduit, but you're also talking about expressing yourself at the same time, which is, I've heard it both ways, but I've not heard it from the same guy both ways. That's very interesting. You know,
Sure.
I've heard guys like Jason Isbell say, I'm just here, or whoever, and it just comes through me, and I don't know where it came from. And then I've heard guys who are like, telling obviously a very personal story. So it's nice that you're hitting on both there.
Well, I think just to put one final little point on that, I think it's sort of, we have to recognize ourselves, those who kind of put themselves out there as songwriters and as subsequent entertainers. You're sort of putting yourself out there as an emotional lightning rod, for better or for worse. And I think it's important to sort of recognize the fact that you're not only are you're wanting to serve as a songwriter and as a musician, but you're also wanting to be nourished as a singer and a songwriter. And
that's kind of what I was trying to get at. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
A beautiful duality and a great honesty that comes with that, because there's something in it for you and me, and there's something in it for the people as well. There's a very big two-way street going on there. I mean, and another thing about music is, I know you play with a band. Do you hire your band, or is it different guys all the time, or is it the same crew that you've had for a long time, or how's that work?
It's been, and over the years, it's been an expanding roster of friends. Really, I I can be really, I'm really loyal to a fault, and so there's a lot of musicians that I've played with over the years that I have continued to play with on and off in different settings, and um, it's if I'm doing like a trio thing, like I've got sort of the core unit that I love to play with, sort of my buds, right? That I like to, that I feel comfortable with. That it's not necessarily comfort that we just kind of go out and go through the motions, but comfort that I can actually be on stage and maybe improvise something and know that they've got my back
Mm-hmm.
musically. If I fall flat on my face, they're the safety net.
Mm-hmm.
And then really it's just I sort of I try to look at context. Context is everything. And case in point, the Oscars. Context is everything.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of building a show, it's important to me that if I'm going into a church hall, I'm not probably not going to show up with a 10-piece band, a horn section, and 3-piece backup singers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably going to want to treat it something a little more acoustic, a little more maybe tender and intimate. But if I'm on a festival stage and there's, like there's real estate for days on that stage, and there's a budget to back it up, then yeah, I like to try to write music that can be presented in any kind of configuration. I think it's important to be able to do that so that
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're not sort of like pegging yourself into one sort of methodology of presenting your art.
Mm-hmm. Well, I asked that question because I know, like, of course, sharing your music with a group of listeners, I hate the word fan, but sharing their music with a group of listeners is sharing, but also sharing the stage and sharing a moment of music with other people. I kind of get goosebumps every time I talk about this, and like sharing a harmony or just, vibing with a group of guys. And so there's those levels that you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, different sharing with. So how does that come into play? Like, that's my second question is like, music is meant to be shared, and like, how important is that to you? Like, just having different groups, having a good loyal listener base to share with, because I mean, there's songwriters out there who have no one listening to them. They're playing in their closets, and like, that's got to be somewhat devastating. You have a bit of a platform.
Well, imagine this conversation. Imagine you asking that question and there was no one on the other side of that question to answer back.
I guess you're right.
Right? It's very one-sided. I mean, it's everything that we do as artists
Mm-hmm.
is intended to be conversational
Mm-hmm.
in nature. That's at the heart of what it is that we do, and how we present that is the dialect of the art.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always sort of seen audiences. It's interesting because I'm coming up on my third year stream anniversary here on Twitch, and it's been a learning process from the get go. I came to Twitch from being in sort of the traditional box of performing art,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that you go out on the road and you play some festivals, or you go to some performing art theaters, or maybe you do a house concert tour, or maybe you do whatever it is. It's you have a live audience that's in front of you, and there's over the eons of time, there's been sort of the imprinted etiquette of how the flow of that presentation takes place.
Mm-hmm.
I play a song for a few minutes, and then there's the obligatory clap, 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 clap,
Mm-hmm.
clap, 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 and then you proceed to the next.
Yeah.
It's like setting chapter marks on a DVD.
Yeah.
You go ahead to the next chapter mark to advance the scene, and then until you reach the end of the play, and that is, and I'm not to degrade that at all, because there's a wonderful synergy that can happen there. But then I came to streaming, and I discovered how much more conversational
Mm-hmm.
streaming is, and it truly is a two-way communication, more so than I had ever envisioned live performance to be.
Well, you play requests on your stream?
I do.
So
and I like that.
Yeah. So what I also notice is, because I play requests, is it becomes more of a one-to-one share, because I'm trying to send that song to that person's house, sort of. So I would never go from Wish You Were Here into Get Lucky. Like, those just are not what you're going. Like, I would work up to that at a pub gig.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so when I see these, when I see this, the song list come in and it's all over the place, and I'm like, wow, that's a vibe change there. That's the difference for me, is like, I just have to consider that I'm trying to send that vibe to one household right now, and everyone else is there for the ride.
Yeah,
But and so it becomes a little bit more personal for me, because if not, I'm just sending it out to the room, right? But go on, it's more conversational for you, and also people are more asking you questions about what you're doing, how you're doing it, those kind of things.
Well, there's that, right? There's that takes place, and so my grandfather always had this expression: "There's room for slip twixt cup and lip," and it's a fun one to say. And but the concept being that from the time that I pick up the drink to actually bring it up to my mouth to take a sip, it's not guaranteed. It's not assured that I'm actually that's what's going to take place. It's implied,
Right.
but
I've heard this before. Yes.
anything can happen, and that's kind of how I feel about Twitch. Is that anything can happen in the moment, and it can immediately steer. And I think, to a certain extent, that's also part and parcel to my my level of how prone I am to improvisation.
Right.
If you're not necessarily the type of performer who's prone to spontaneity, and everything needs to be particularly scripted and thought out,
That's kind of me.
then maybe live streaming, you're approaching it with a different mindset. But I found that I love to improvise in my live shows. It's not so much jam band per se, but if I'm playing with if I've got other players with me on stage, I'm going to take that opportunity to kind of push the boundaries of their personalities, because you've got this collective zeitgeist,
Right.
it's a little collective hub of what's going on out there in the world around you and in the audience in front of you. And that's a catalyst for kind of creating these little moments on the stage that people then walk away and go, that was something that I hadn't expected and didn't realize. I wasn't prepared for it, but looking back on it, I couldn't have imagined the show without it, type of thing, right?
It fit into place. There's
a similar thing with chat. It's I think, and the thing I think where that's illustrated is in how people clip moments of the stream.
Oh, right.
Because when I go back and I see things that people clip that they find particularly interesting or funny or poignant or unexpected or something, may not necessarily been what I would have chosen to clip. And that gives me sort of like the mirror perspective back of looking at what it's like to be part of the conversation.
Also, at the same time, I think a lot of times when you have originals on your list, of course, being a songwriter, I'm sure, that kind of data is great too. Like, I don't want to call it data, but honestly, people are telling us in real time. I mean, we get it from the streaming sites too, but we're getting in real time, like, hey, look at how often this song is requested. Look at the reaction. This song is requested every stream, so on and so forth. You kind of can sort of get a feel for what people are actually vibing with, I think. So.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, there's a reason why they call it the music business and not the music.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that analytical side of what we do as artists that is part and parcel of operating a business within the music industry. And so, there's aspects to that where you're sort of data mining to a sense, but it's used in a way that's presenting, you're creating music that's intended to connect.
Right.
How, and then you write a song that you think, oh man, this just does so much for me. I got to put it out there. And then you do. And then it's like, wow, it's like nothing.
The
It's just like
response is just not there.
crickets,
Yeah.
crickets. It's just crickets, and
So,
then it's surprising what connects and what doesn't.
right. Well, my next question is always, what is success? And I would consider you a successful musician. And that's a great segue with the whole business thing, because obviously success is going to vary for everybody, but it may or may not include finances. But dude, you've been doing this for a long time. What do you consider successful? Do you consider yourself a successful musician?
Oh, boys, I have literally cried myself to sleep on certain nights where I just want to set everything on fire
Yeah.
and go see what it's like on the safer side of life. A more secure income, a more stable lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then there are some days where I just like, it's like, man, I'm doing this is the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
But even that there's the mental exhaustion of those ups and downs, those, as Rudyard Kipling put it in the poem If, those triumphs and disasters. And, how do we treat those two imposters? And from a business sense, from a real world sense, it took me a long time to define that for me. And it's still, it's like a rock in a tumbler. You're constantly kind of finessing the edges a little bit, I think. Um, and I would hope so, because if you're wanting to see yourself as a career artist, there was a joke that I heard one time from I think it was from Larry Mole Man Taylor. He's since passed away, but he's the bass player for Canned Heat, and he he was on tour and he was setting up for a sound check, and somebody had asked him about like, you guys have been doing this for a long time. Why? And at this point, Larry's in his 70s and still out there rocking the stage and packing them in with sold out audiences. Canned Heat celebrated their 50th anniversary world tour 7, 8 years ago, whatever. And he said, "Man, musicians don't retire. Musicians, they play until they die." And that's exactly what happened. Now, in an era before that that was probably just what you did. But the savviness of independent musicians has come so far in the last 20, 30 years, and particularly in the last 20 years, because because the nature of the game has changed. And so it's sort of like the generation that's grown up where they've never known anything other than the internet, and so being digitally native, as it's described. Whereas folks like myself, maybe not necessarily you, but I'm of a certain vintage that grew up with um, you know for me, it was a thing. It was this thick book like this called the Book of Knowledge. Sure. Well, yeah, I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer, but it all comes back around because as independent artists, now when I say independent, I still work with people. I still have team members that I work on to be able to get to a goal that we set. But it's there's a certain level of control that's come back, so that for independent artists, your definition of success and your ability to achieve it is far more in one's control than it ever used to be. And I think of just the other day I was listening on Twitter to a really great it was a Twitter space going on, and it featured Acius, it featured Melissa Lamb out of Toronto, and it featured I don't know his name, but he's the guitar player from Dragon Force, and they were all part of a documentary that was done by a company in Toronto, all about Twitch music in particular, and how it's evolved the artist's ability to connect. And but on the business level of that ability, it's created this opportunity where artists can be so much more direct, servicing audiences and fans around the world in a way that was only ever thought, Big Machine could do for you.
Right. Right.
That you had to be signed by a major label in order to accomplish, similar numbers on a national sales chart or something like that. So there's so many different ways to look at it. Is success meaning that you have a stable household and that you're keeping the lights on and you're making the bills? Is success that you're headlining an arena tour? Is success that you're a household name? Like,
What is it, Charlie? I'm asking you that.
I'm still working it out. That's what I'm saying. Is like, for me, there was a point where I wanted to be, I wanted to be a household name because that's rock star, baby. That's what it's all about. It's show business. And but it changes over time. It morphs, and it doesn't mean it's morphing because you failed at anything. It's morphing because you've succeeded at
the first step. Goal number one.
You've succeeded at maybe taking care of yourself first in a way.
Right.
And because this can be such a self-sacrificing industry.
Mm-hmm. Well, I make a living playing music, but I do it by playing everybody else's music. And
Sure.
So, I mean, I can consider that I consider that successful in a way, but what you do, I find is you have a career as a songwriter. Like, you have known songs, you win awards, you're played on the CBC, I'm sure. You're played at Maple Blues Fest. You do you do the things.
Sure, yeah.
And like, that's a different career than I have. So like, I mean, yeah, I'm successful, but there's a level of success that you have that I wish that I could step up to, and then there's a level of success that maybe Jason Isbell has that you could wish you could step up to. It all goes on and on forever, right?
For sure, it does, and that's the tangled web we weave, isn't it? Because it's grass is always greener on the other side, and it's taken me a long time to feel comfortable in myself. If I were to go to I've had some music on radio, and that's been helpful, but I haven't won a Juno. I'm not I tour across Canada. In different regions, and I've done all of that, and that's great. I'll continue to do that because it's a lot of fun, and you get to do that if you've kind of built the network up. But there are things that I'd love to do. I'd love to win a Juno. I'd love to, some of my, I say, counterparts from the local scene here in Atlanta, Canada, who I deeply admire and respect because they're super talented and deserve that type of notoriety. I haven't gotten there yet. Doesn't mean I won't. It just means that for whatever reason, my time is still in this particular frame rate.
Yeah, success mode. You're at that level, and like, there's steps to this, and you know what? You're working your way up to the next level of that, and that's what it is. But yeah, man, just opening yourself up and sharing your real art is really cool. And I aspire to that a lot more, and I've been trying to be unapologetic about releasing and stuff because it's very difficult for me to put music out there. And so, yeah, that's my goal this year. And thanks for being an inspiration. But would you inspire us a little bit more with maybe a performance, or would you want to play a video? What's the plan, you think?
Well, let's play a video.
Well, let's tell us about it then.
Yeah, this is this tune I've been feeling. It's funny because you write songs, and sometimes they sit in your back pocket after they get released, and then sometimes they just kind of live and do their own thing. And this song in particular has resurfaced sort of on YouTube and is sort of picked up again in my in my circle of performances. I wrote a song back in 2016 with an Aussie musician named Lloyd Spiegel. And he was on tour in Europe. He was touring through Belgium, and he was in Brussels the day of the terror attacks there when the attack on the airport and the attack on the subway lines took place. after a few days, when the dust kind of settled, and things like internet and telecommunications were kind of back up and running for the public, he and I connected, and we were talking over Skype, and he was telling me how he was supposed to have performed in Brussels that night, and in the interest of not wanting to be in poor taste, he thought, well, maybe I should, talking with the promoter, maybe we should just cancel the show tonight and leave it be. And after a discussion, they decided to actually go ahead with the show, but just take the ticket price off and actually just encourage people to come together and unify and be together. And he said when that happened, what would have been a capacity of like maybe 50 people ended up being closer to 200-300, people that all kind of filled into this nook and cranny of the venue and kind of spilled outside into the parking lot.
It's beautiful.
And it was a beautiful thing. And he said the people, when I looked out we couldn't not talk about what just happened that day and the horrific scenes that we saw. The people just refused to fear, Lloyd said. And that just caught me. And we were wanting to write this tune together for a while, but we hadn't really started the ball on it until he had told me the story. And we ended up working on it, kind of batting it back and forth over Skype. And then I thought, well, this is a beautiful song. Well, let's hold on to it, because you think as a person who puts out albums, you want to build a collection of songs first, and so obviously you have a song that's a little older than the others until you get the collection ready to go. And then a couple of months later, unfortunately, the massacre that happened at the Pulse nightclub in Florida took place, and it was just this horrendous attack on the LGBTQ community, and it was just heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And there were vigils around the world for this, and Halifax was no different. And the community came together, and a lot of minority allied communities also came out to show their support. And I was asked to, I had submitted the song and said to the promoters, I said, is this something that you would think would be helpful? And they invited me to come perform it. And when they did, I was like, for days after that, I was getting these messages of tears and thank yous and this is thanks for this song. And so it was like, okay, this screw putting it out on a record, we got to put it out now. It needs to connect with people who are hurting, who need to know that there is a place for them, who need to know that they don't need to apologize for who they are, who they love, where they live, how they live. We just need to stop the cycle and refuse to fear.
Mm-hmm.
And we put it out there, and it's just been the beauty that has come back to me over the last few years since that song came out. It's come back to me tenfold, just the love that's come back. And so I think with what we're seeing in Ukraine right now, and the resiliency and the sheer determination and will to live as a free society for the people of Ukraine, this song has roots in what's taking place there right now. And I want to send this out to anyone who needs to hear it right now. This is called Refuse to Fear.
It's a great choice, and I watched it before the show, obviously, and it was super powerful. So I'm going to get right into it right now, guys. Enjoy this performance here. You have an unbelievable talent. That is like some powerful shit right there. And yeah, anything that can make you feel a certain way or get a little tickle in the back of the neck there is something that's what I call music, man. That's what, like, I don't ever really have I unfortunately don't have the same value for party anthems as other people do. And my kind of thing is that kind of thing, man. Like, I'm here for sharing a powerful message like that. That's what we're here for, so I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that.
Right on. Thanks for playing it.
That was beautiful, dude. What sparks your creativity? I mean, that was very obvious there, but you have songs about, I'm sure, love and hate and war and heartbreak and maybe your children or houses that I love.
Yeah, right.
What sparks your creativity generally, man?
Sometimes it can be as innocuous as hearing a sound when I'm out. I could be out at the grocery store and I can hear something and it kind of hums a certain way, a certain frequency, like the vacuum cleaner. Like, it always feels like there's this dissonant hum of a low D coming from the vacuum cleaner, and I'll start kind of like, I feel like it's leaving this little kind of a rumble chord down in the bass, and then I'll start harmonizing
drone
with that.
Yeah.
It's like a little drone, exactly.
Yeah.
And it'll be just something as kind of like wonky as that. And then other times it's my debut single that was released on the album Color Me Gone that came out in 2002. It's a song called You Got a Friend in Me. No, it's not the Randy Newman one. It's one that I wrote, and it actually almost didn't make the record, but there's that's a whole other story. There's a lyric in there that says yesterday doesn't belong to me anymore. Tomorrow doesn't belong to me yet. And there was a fella being interviewed on the CBC about going to Quebec to help residents during the major ice storm in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And where it could just completely crumble the
power grid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And people went days, if not a few weeks, without power, and it was desperate. There were desperate things going on.
Freezing cold, man.
Yeah.
Pipes breaking everywhere. It was devastating.
And he was, I can't remember if he was like a linesman or maybe he was a truck driver or something, but I just remember him being interviewed, and it was something along the lines, the question was, well, why are you doing this? And he just said something to the effect of, yesterday doesn't belong to me anymore. Tomorrow doesn't belong to me yet. This is where I'm at. I'm here now doing what I do. And it was that
sparked that
phrase
song
in passing that sparked that song. Yeah. So it can be it's never one, there's never one method, and then it just kind of, that's what I stick to. Sometimes it's playing in a particular key. Mm-hmm. I often ask when I see other people on Twitch that I kind of googly eye over because of the sound of their voice and how it works in a particular song. I often ask them, do you have a favorite key that you like to sing in? Because there's something about this key that you're singing in that's hitting me in a way that maybe if you sung it a little lower or a little higher, it wouldn't feel
it's just hitting hard. It's hitting perfectly right now.
Yeah, it's something visceral about it, and that'll spark a thought process on putting a cadence together or working on the meter of a line.
The process is pretty simple for writing a song. You write some music and you write some lyrics, but the hard part is fitting them together. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah. It's one part organic and it's one part structural.
Yeah, methodic or some way.
Yeah, a little bit, because you want to act. Like you were referencing Jason Isbell. You want to sort of be that conduit for something to pass through.
Yeah, you. That's not that simple sometimes.
No, that's difficult.
Yeah.
And then other times you want you want the process to be tempered by your own experience as a writer. And you just simply don't get that experience without giving yourself permission to write a shitty song.
No, you're allowed to do that
Right.
on my show. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I went to this a master class years ago that was being presented by the late Ron Hines, who, as a Canadian songwriter from Newfoundland, he was well known around the world as the man of 1,000 songs, because he had just had this innate sense of putting melody to words and vice versa, and a turn of phrase. He loved to deconstruct a turn of phrase and either just simply reverse it or turn it inside out or do something that changed your perspective as the listener. And probably most famously was the lyricist for a song called Sonny's Dream, which is up there with songs like Hallelujah in terms of the number of times it's been recorded by people, other people around the world. It's just like remarkable. And so he was putting on this masterclass, and he said you have to give yourself a chance to write a horrible song and get that out of your system, and do it again if you have to, and then do that again if you have to. Push through. It's like that whole rock and the tumbler thing. And he would do little things like for instance, Home is Just a House Now, which is an unreleased song, but it's a song that you and I have talked about before. It's a song that I wrote years ago that came out of his masterclass.
Okay.
And that was an exercise.
The turn of phrase.
Where Ron would smoke like, a pack a gig, and he would smoke. We were sitting in this some library room, and there was like 20 of us all going, all right, Master Ron Hines, what are you gonna teach us? And his first thing, he just lights up a cigarette. All right, I want you to I want you to write a list of titles that you like and that seem to make sense to you. And then he went out and smoked a cigarette. I'll be back in 5 minutes. And so we're like, okay. So we wrote a bunch of titles down, and then he came back. The cigarette's out. He grabs. He's lighting the next one. All right, now I want you to pick one of them, one of the titles that say something to you, and then write something about it. And then that was, there was no ins and outs. It was no wax on, wax off.
Yeah, no secret. No secret to the art.
No, and Ron was very unapologetic and very unabashed, and he and then he said, okay, now I want you to write the first verse. He gave us like 10, 15 minutes, and we would write a stanza or whatever. Okay, now that's going to be your second verse, and I want you to go back and rewrite the first verse. And it was like, whoa! I was like, you mean there's no rules? Like, you don't have to do it in a set order? Like, it was... I found that kind of interesting because, as a young writer at the time, you kind of like, we're pretty spoiled here in Atlantic, Canada, that there is a lineage here of amazing writers. Ron Hines, Bruce Guthrow, Dave Gunning, Rose Cousins, Catherine McClellan, and there's and the list just goes on, and there's I don't know, I sort of felt like there was this expectation that if you're going to be a songwriter, you need to be working at that caliber, and so at the time it made me think that, okay, well then there's only, you write the song, you write one line at a time, and then you just keep, it's like plowing a field. No one ever told me that you can start on this section of the field and then skip a couple of rows and go plow that part of go till that ground for a little bit and then come back to this.
Right.
And so the process of songwriting is just, it's such a guttural journey of reflection. And a friend of mine had put something out online that just said, I just spent all this time working on this project that I thought I was digging and going to put it out there, and then come to find that a few hours into it, I actually kind of hate it, and now I don't want to release it, and now I've lost all this time, and it was food for thought for me, and I ended up thinking to myself, you know what, this is the songwriting process, because sometimes discovering the kind of artist you want to be means exploring the kind of songwriter you don't want to be.
Oh, of course, I've done that a
And
million times.
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the best response that I have to that is like discovering the songwriter that you are going to be is pretending to be all the songwriters you admire first.
Well, there's that, right?
So I saw, I really was like a big, when I was a teenager skateboard kid, I loved Sublime. I loved the tunes. No, I didn't really like the ska stuff, but I liked the slower stuff, the What I Gots and the Santerias. Those were kind of my
Sure.
jams. I wasn't really into the fast punk stuff. So I was always trying to be that. And then it came to the point where I was enjoying whatever, the Lumineers. And then I was trying to be that. And then it was Jason Isbell, and I was trying to be that. And now I'm just like, well, why am I trying to be anything? I just have to be me now. So stop all this nonsense, right? But that's a
Sure.
journey that you have to go through. And another part about that songwriting whole thing that I wanted to get back to is you said that some of it is organic and some of it is methodical. And what I find is that what I'll get a piece of, I actually prefer pen and paper for the first idea. So what I'll do is I'll start going frantic with some melody and some lyrics, and then afterwards I will move it around like a puzzle. So the first part is organic. I'm just spitting out whatever feels good at the moment, and I'm
Right.
kind of slowly thinking, but I'm like, I don't get hung up on things. And then afterwards I'm like, okay, now we have all the pieces to the puzzle here. They're definitely not in the right configuration because this doesn't look like a good puzzle to me. It looks like a really half-assed puzzle. So then I'm moving things around for a whole weeks. Who knows how
Yeah.
long, it can be
It
weeks
can,
or it
yeah.
can be literally an hour but I just think the process, like you said, it's half organic and half not. I have to agree 100% because that's how I would go about the whole thing.
Man, of my catalog of finished material,
Yeah, I know. And the unfinished is way bigger, isn't it?
oh, cavernous. Absolutely. Because they hit you. Like I'll stand in the shower and I'll be like, oh, I kind of like the reverb right now. And it triggers something and you start singing about it, you get this idea, and then, oh, I got to voice memo the crap out of this.
Yeah.
And then it sits there and it doesn't happen because you come back to it and go, actually,
Was
you
it
know what?
that good?
wasn't.
Yeah, was it
Yeah.
that good?
Yeah. And that's the hard part is learning when to let go. It's like a painter. My mother-in-law is a phenomenal painter based in Montreal, and she creates these works of art that are just absolutely stunning. And her works are on display in galleries across the city, and she's spent a lifetime at this, and she still goes on about looking at stuff and saying, I just like it would just take me 20 seconds with my brush, and if I could just go in and like her family has to say, no, mom, you've done it.
It's framed. Stop.
It's framed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
it's on the wall.
yeah,
Someone's bought it.
Stop. You put your brush away. You're getting
Let
it on
me
the
ask
couch.
you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me ask you this, because it's something that I kind of struggle with sometimes. Is as a songwriter, like getting hung up on something is one thing. Like if you're having a block or you're something, you're having trouble kind of connecting or doing whatever. But what about when you find something that you're really married to and you really, really love, and then you get down the line a little bit and the thing that you really, really loved is now not gelling with the rest of the song as it's been evolving. Do you run into that?
It's happened to me before.
How do you deal with that when you're married to like the set of lines that
I have
the song inspired it, you wrote it, but then after you got to the rest of the moving of the pieces of the puzzle, you come back and you go, oh man, I love those lines, but now compared to the
Doesn't feel right, yeah.
95% rest of the song, it's now not quite the thing anymore.
Well, I would get my voice memo out and record that again. in a different key, and I would take it out of that song.
Right.
And I would try. I've had songs that have had the same part in them, and I have to pick which one's better and release that one. I haven't released either of them yet, but I've had that.
I love that.
But I have
That's
had
great.
it where I'm like, I love this melody, and for some reason, I remembered the melody, didn't remember the lyrics, did a second voice memo. Then I went back and saw that I had the same thing going on, and I'm like, well, I'm going to put this into each of their own songs, and whatever one wins, sort of thing. So maybe something to consider is just like, yeah, and if it's way out of place, I mean, yeah,
It's torturous.
pull that piece out, and that's for your next puzzle over here, and you just put that there, and then you start to build another puzzle around that piece. Maybe. I mean, I'm no pro. Listen, but it's
Listen, sometimes I just find it so torturous because it's like you say, it's sometimes it'll hit you in the middle of the night. It'll wake you up because something it just clicked. And then other times it'll actually just keep you awake, and because you can't figure it out for the life of you. It's like it's like all of a sudden like you've just been. I know how to dress myself. Why can't I?
Okay, here's another one for you then.
Why can't I finish this sentence?
Yeah, here's another one for you then. The opposite of sort of like what you asked me is like how like I get stuck on stuff that I cannot forget. So like I'll sing a melody to the chord progression I have going, and I'm like, that just doesn't sound great. But then I can't come up with another melody because I've burned that path into my head now, and I'm like, okay, I really need a co-write now so I can forget that whole like melody or line or whatever. Does that happen to you?
That does, and that's a pitfall of mine. I've discovered. I feel like sometimes that ends up me kind of in a feedback loop from song to song to song on what my kind of go-to approach of building a song has come to be. And so that's a constant for me. That's a constant struggle of, okay, I need to get out of my own headspace for a little bit. What if I change the tempo? What if I change the time signature? What if I change the key?
I've tried to go to a friend. I would say like if I had a melody that I did not like and I wanted to change it, I would show up to your house and go, Charlie, I'd play the chords and I'd go, sing the first thing, and you'd start singing something, and I would start singing along. I would start repeating that melody just to immediately get a new melody in my head that is not mine. But I've done that before to my guitar player. I'm like, okay, ready, Daryl? Start singing. And I start playing, and he's like, no. I'm like, I pick things out, and I'm like, okay, I got to go with that direction.
And then it's
now.
just like, blah!
Yeah.
No, it's kind of. Yeah, I'll keep that. No, it's kind of gets
But
across.
you know what
the
I
finish
mean,
line.
though? It's like I've carved this weird path in my brain out that I can't get off. It's like a roller coaster that I'm like on tracks now, and I'm like, man, I don't want this. Why do I keep going to that?
Well, it's kind of going back to that whole like, how married are you, not just to the lyric, but to the song that's carrying the lyric at the same time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
And the idea of like, does everything have to fit in 4/4? Does everything have to fit in 4 bars? Like, does this line, do I have to do AABB, or is it ABAB, or am I looking at internal rhymes, or what? Like, it can be.
I don't think people understand the level. I mean, I'm sure people do understand because not everyone has or can write a song that's,
But on the flip side though, isn't it like, it's a little like, oh really? Is that your problem? Oh my God, I can't figure out oh my God, this is the worst thing going on in my life. That's the worst thing going on in your life right now.
Well, when your life is made up with connecting with people and actually putting something in your heart and soul into something, and this would go for the same with, like I've worked with carpenters before that will go up and throw the level on the side of the thing and go, it's out. It's not plumb. It's out a degree. And I'm like, it's out a degree. We're not building a piano here. And he's like, that's not right. Can I get you to shim the top, please? And I'm like, okay. So people take pride in their work, and you have to understand.
Oh, that's for sure.
And so, like, I hope people don't look at it that way, that it's the worst problem. It's just that you're taking a little bit of extra pride in your work, and it's an art, man. And another thing about songwriting that I talk to about with a lot of my guests, and I'll let you get into it. I would love you to perform a song for us, but
sure.
Another thing about songwriting that I've asked my other guests before is like when you have to bring in a producer, a mixer, an engineer, and other instrumentalists, other musicians to perform. How do you convey what your painting looks like in your mind? Because here's what I attributed it to is, and I love saying this because it makes the most sense. It's like, hey, I'm going to paint a picture of a cottage on a lake in the autumn. And you're like, okay, and you close your eyes and you have an image of that, and you start painting. Now you're my producer, and you start painting the cottage in the top left corner, and I'm like, whoa, the cottage does not go there. It's down here on the shore in the bottom right corner. Can you not see this image? So conveying that sound and what it's supposed to sound like. How do you do that with your producers? And I see you've worked with a bunch of different guys. So
Yeah, I think that's a life thing. I think that's you just have to live life and take a few. You got to take a few on the chin in the sense of like you can't be everything. You can't be great at all the things that are related to the aspects of putting out your music as an independent artist.
You know what you want though, Charlie, and like you're putting your time and effort and heart into this. And I'm not trying to be rude.
Well, then I'll self-produce, won't I?
I guess so. But that
that's
would be the case.
That's the point. Like if you're outsourcing the creative cohesion to a producer, that's their job. Their job isn't to go play the drums. Their job isn't to then tune your guitar so that you put on a great take. Their tune is to be there, and it's different than a film director versus a film editor. They're two different capacities.
Right.
And I think it's important to you have to give whoever is in that captaincy, as the artist are actually not the one in the captain seat.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, you have to give them that control, which is terrifying for a guy like me, but
it can be. Yeah. Otherwise, then go self-produce it yourself.
Yeah, I've just had people.
And there's pros and cons to that. But it's at the end of the day, I kind of go back to the idea of getting out of your own head in a way. That's why there's pre-production. You don't just show up in the studio and it's all put together.
Well, that's me. That's me married to my sound then, Charlie. That's what we're talking about earlier. It's like I am married to what I want this song to sound like, and when it doesn't, I'm like, we missed again. That's just how I am. I'm married to and maybe the song is not supposed to sound like that. It's supposed to sound like what it does sound like. I get that, but I have a hard time with that because I'm like, this is the final goal here, and it just doesn't land for me. But it lands somewhere, and it lands in music land. But that's one of my biggest struggles. I've come to a better place with that with my last release, but it's still finding that, and it's just me and one other guy now. Like I can try, the guy I love, Daryl. He was the pilot episode on the podcast. You would love his interview. Actually, you should go check it out.
Yeah, right.
He's a genius, and I trust him. And he made me cry. Like I said, can you arrange the strings for Aces? He played guitar, mandolin, bass, and he sent it back to me. And like I went over to his house to listen, and I literally broke into tears. I'm like, man, finally someone has actually got it. Like this is what it's supposed to sound like, And
that's amazing because not everyone that I've worked with ever did quite understand who I was. Yeah. Sometimes they tried their very, very best and still produced really great sounding music, but I always felt that I wasn't necessarily presenting the most honest version of myself, like you say, that I hear in my head.
Right.
But at the same time, there's credence to try to always work with people who are better at what they do than you are.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. I want to hear you perform because I love your live voice is amazing. I'm a big live music guy, and I'm already way over time here, but I would love to get you to play a tune for us and tell us what you're going to play, and then I have a few more questions after that, actually, just quickly before I do let you go. If that's cool.
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, cool, dude. Well, I'm going to give you the full screen right now, and I'm going to mute myself, and we're going to give you the stage, and you can take it from here, my man. Just give it 1 second while this stinger goes through for you. All right, Charlie, it's all yours, man.
Wicked. Okay, so this is a song. This is a song that I love to sing, and it's really, at the end of the day, it was just a love song. But you got to have a groove when you do a love song, and so for me, this was a tune that came out on my first record, way back when, and this is a tune called "All I Need." Well, well, well. Love, no, 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 no. I was dreaming, I was holding you close. Oh, last night we were listening to Otis singing these arms of mine. Every time I think of you, I come undone. I don't know if what I feel is right, but I won't be the one. Oh, oh, yeah, all I want, yeah, yeah, all I need. Oh, all I am, well, all I want is for you to be all I need. Oh, no, no, yeah, yeah. Have you ever slept naked under satin sheets? Have you ever said hello to somebody you thought you'd never meet? Sometimes, Lord, you might find, well, I come undone. That's the time you should be here with me. I will be the one, yes I will. Oh, yeah, all I want. Oh, yeah, all I need. Yeah, yeah, all I am. Well, 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 well. All I want is for you to be all I need. Well, 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 well. Well, all I want is for you to be all I need. All I want is for you to be all I need. All I want is for you to be all I need. All I want is for you to be all I need. Well, 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 Lord, ooh, ooh, ooh.
Dude, killer. I love it, man. You're just such a slayer on the guitar. Your vocals are on point. You're amazing. You got a great mix to head voice to falsetto. How much more do I need?
Keep it coming.
Everyone knows. They all just heard that. I mean, what else do we need to say? Just amazing, dude.
Well, thanks, man.
You're not only just, dude, you're not only just such an amazing, honestly, like, I don't mean to gush, but it's hard to express how you feel about someone's talents through a camera. And like, I say this on stream all the time, like, it's very hard for me to say thank you if I don't, or if I'm in a chat and I'm like, dude, that was awesome. I'm like, dude, that was amazing. I'm like going off because I have to explain, like, dude, I really enjoyed that, you know? Amazing stuff. But on top of being an amazing musician, dude, you do some amazing things with your platform. And can you tell us a little bit about Stringathon?
Sure, yeah. I've got a couple of things on the go, and Stringathon is sort of a grassroots thing I started a few years back. Basically, the idea behind Stringathon is I would reach out to the guitar players on the scene here and collect like open packs of unused guitar strings. Like, I know from my own buying habits, when I go into the store, I'm usually buying 2 or 3 of the same set because I know I'm going to completely change, swap out the strings. So there goes one set, and then I've got a backup set, and inevitably I'm somewhere and I bust a string, and that's just the way it is. And so you end up, for me, I at one point I had like hundreds of these perfectly used guitar strings, but I never got to them because by the time I'd broken so many strings, I just needed to put a whole new set on anyway. Right. So you just inevitably,
you got 27 D strings, you got 49 A strings and E strings, and then you have no 10s or 11s. I get it how it goes. And then if you can get someone to donate, like call to Daryl, or maybe to throw in the 10s and 11s, and you can make some packs for these people, right? I don't know.
Right. And so I would collect these, and I'd make my own. I'd get them all like within the right gauge range, and then go around to schools with band programs and supply their guitars with brand new strings for the start of the school year.
Just amazing.
Because a lot of times, one thing, something that people don't quite really understand or think about, it's not that they don't have the capacity to understand it, but it's just not front of mind, is that a lot of times in things like that, especially in junior highs or middle schools, things like that often don't. They're overlooked by budgets.
Of course.
And so, like, school budgets for the year. And so a lot of times things like that, they come out of the teacher's pocket and they don't get reimbursed necessarily for that thing. Yeah. And, I'd go into some of these schools and literally the strings are like green from corrosion.
Yeah.
Because you've got teenage hands all over them and they're sweating because they just came from gym class. And, and
they've been on there for 4 semesters.
Because they can't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like they can swap
they're extending
strings every week.
I get it. No.
So that's been fun. I've had a lot of reach out from the local music scene players and some of the like Long and McQuaid's and some of the kind of the ma and pa music stores that have exactly that, the big D'Addario, big spool of
11s, or whatever you
need. Yeah. That they know that they're done for the year because they're getting restocked for the next cycle by their supplier. And so, it's been awesome. I mean, it's labor intensive because if you see my kitchen table, it's like
Oh
just
yeah.
it's overflowing with guitar strings
I
when
mean,
I sit down to do this.
we don't have the most huge reach ever, but I know it's on your website, and you can click through the link on the
Yeah.
website. It says Stringathon right on there. Is there a way for a guy like me to mail you some? I will start definitely saving.
Well, in your particular case, I'm coming to Toronto in June.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean,
I could just swing by and pick them up.
well, I would like to have you here for a performance, anyways. That's definitely, let's make that happen. So we'll stay in touch on that, but.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like if there's anybody in chat, like, I mean, I know that we have some other players around, and like even my pops probably has some old stuff. Like, I mean, whoever and whatever. Is there a way that people can do it remotely, or is it just local right now?
It's just local right now
What
because it's just me and it's
Can
very
we do
grassroots.
Can we do another chapter
I
over
had
here?
I had a thing called stringathon.ca.
Okay.
It's down temporarily right now because I just didn't have the time to keep it going
Of course.
on the digital front. But it's there, and actually, if people want to follow Stringathon on Twitter, it's also there. I've got a Twitter handle for Stringathon, but there's a little tab there that gives you on charlieaquart.com that gives you the basic little rundown of what the Stringathon program is all about.
So all the links are showing up in chat right now. We have a command for you, and all the links in the YouTube video will be in the description below for everything. I'll make sure that they're all there and organized for everybody. Another thing that Charlie does beyond Stringathon, which is one amazing thing, thank you for doing that, is you have talk to us about Kasem.
Oh, yeah. Well, the name is perhaps a little self-serving, but it's
That's fine.
CASM stands for Charlie Aquart Scholarship for Excellence in Music, and it's a bursary that I kind of squirrel away $500 through the year, just out of pocket, and literally put it in the piggy bank. And each year, a Nova Scotia high school grad who's continuing their music education in university can apply to this program and get awarded. It's only, unfortunately I can only do one winner, one recipient, but they have a shot at winning $500 to go towards their education.
Just out of your pocket, man. You're an absolute legend. So how do I mean, obviously people hanging out in your Twitch channel and subscribing over there and helping out over there would help, but like, how do we get people to help out with this?
I've actually given that some thought because, I love the idea of charity streams, and I've done charity streams. I'm a team member of Saving Music Live. That's kind of the thing that's on the stream. So I always put my name in when SML is doing a charity event, and sometimes I'm on it and sometimes I'm not able to attend, but I love what they were doing, and they routinely, they've raised so much money for so many different charities.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of that. And we did a charity stream on my channel to support the African Nova Scotia Music Association in 2020, and I felt a little bashful doing a charity stream for Kasem.
Would it be better if you had a representative? Because I will help you organize that. It would be my honor to be a part of the raid train and to help you in whatever way possible. And I will team up with your mods and my mods. I know you're a busy guy, but that is an absolutely beautiful thing you do out of pocket. And I think we can make it bigger, or we can make it better, or whatever we can do to come together, because there's a great group of community out there. So I will be in touch with you and your mods.
Well, I appreciate that. I will say, because that would be lovely to work on, I will say for the time being, because I'm not exactly sure when this is going up on YouTube, but for those who are watching right now on Twitch, the application is open right now. The deadline is coming up on April 8th. So if there's anyone watching that have, maybe you're watching from Nova Scotia, or maybe you have friends or family living in Nova Scotia that has a young budding musician that's graduating from a Nova Scotia high school this year, get them. It's all on charlieaquart.com. They can click on the Kasem link. It'll redirect them to the eligibility application page, and they have until April 8th to apply for the bursary.
I will make sure that this is on YouTube on the 7th. It was going to come out on the 8th, which is a Tuesday, I believe. I think, is it?
Listen, if people can pull off an application in 24 hours once they see this, that's amazing.
Well,
but don't lose any sleep over it.
that would be a person that you would want to give the scholarship to, who gave it their all in the last 24 hours. Let's be honest.
Wouldn't that would be stellar?
So
Yeah.
So yeah, I will definitely make sure that it's out before then. But so April 8th is the deadline for that, and all the links are in the description below. Man,
Nice.
You're an absolute legend, and I want to do this again with you because I could go on for hours, and I would like to have like a little bit more of an open conversation. I don't want it to be so like one-sided where I'm asking you a bunch of questions. I just kind of want to have a free flow a little more, but we would need more time because I'm not good at editing 2-hour videos just yet. So my computer can't handle that stuff just yet. So
Yeah. I always say I've got my mother's gift of gab. I love conversation. I love to chat, and I love to share. So
I'm trying to learn how to listen.
Thanks for
better.
having me on.
Thank you for coming on. I'm trying to learn how to listen better, so it's a great thing for me, man. I just can let you go, and like you're giving great information, and I'm learning about you, and it was an absolute pleasure. So, how about I let you have your night back, and you can get some time with your family, and I'll make sure that I do my best to promote this for everybody, and we will make sure to do this again soon. And in June, I would love to see you here. So,
Wicked.
we'll stay in touch,
Thanks.
my friend. Thank you so much, brother. Take care of yourself.
You too.
All right, guys, we are through another episode. Now, that one was a little longer than I'm used to, but man, all day long, I could do this for another 2 hours. Absolutely amazing. So, thank you for being here today. Once again, this is Pod from the Bunker. And basically, I'm just doing my best to get through these interviews. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I'm learning as I go. Try to make sure there's no dead air. Try to make sure things run smoothly. We had another couple audio crackles today, which I'm going to try to figure out again. But we will get there. So thank you for watching it. If you're not watching this on YouTube, you can come over to Twitch, and you can see this live on Twitch. And if you're watching this on Twitch, go check out my YouTube. It's Command YouTube in the chat. We'll bring it up. And Charlie is an absolute legend. All of his links are in the description below, and all the links are right here in chat. Charlie, I'm going to hand it over to my mods who are going to rate another musician right now on Twitch. If you don't know what Twitch is, it's a great live streaming platform, and we have a great community. So come on over and join us. And mods, whoever you'd like to go see, thank you everybody for being here. Tune in next week. We have another great artist. And until next time, keep it between the mustard and the mayonnaise. Let's go.